This week, what the U of C is doing after the federal government began investigating it for possible Title IX violations. Plus, Alderman Burns had a busy week at City Council. What he was up to, all coming up on This Week. I'm Andrew Holtzman. This week is sponsored by the Hyde Park Kenwood Community Conference. You can check them out at hydepark.org. First up, Hyde Parkers have been talking a lot after a deadly shooting at Jackson Park's Iowa building, talking about what to do about it. Residents urged 5th Ward Alderman Leslie Hairston to close the building down earlier. With the Park District, she did that. Hairston also pushed for legislation to increase penalties for gun crimes in the parks. But none of that may be necessary. That's according to Park District Safety Supervisor Lorenzo Chu.
We close that park at 9 o'clock, what will happen? The same thing. So you're still going to need enforcement. The same thing's going to happen because the individuals that are causing you problems, they could care less about an 11 o'clock closing or a 9 o'clock closing.
Now, he had a similar comment about the increased penalties. But Chu says higher police presence will cut down on disturbances, and 3rd District Police Captain Sean Loughran told the Herald that's already started working. The University of Chicago is trying to get tougher on sexual misconduct. Complaints will now go through a committee with members from across the university. Here's Herald reporter Lindsay Welbers.
So it would come from more than one department across the city or across the university, which can help achieve a more fair outcome for both parties.
There's also a new full-time associate dean for sexual misconduct cases. Alderman Burns headed up 2 different committees that both made important moves recently. Here's an update on his work at City Hall. A task force to examine the minimum wage headed up by Burns decided that there should be an increase, but by $13 instead of the $15 some have called for. Political reporter Jeff Bishku-Eichel followed the story.
He says that it is more manageable for businesses and more in line with federal minimum wage increases.
And that task force recommendation goes on to the mayor. Now, also this week, Burns held a hearing to find out why minority students aren't enrolling at Northside selective enrollment schools. He told the Tribune that he wanted to find out from CPS how to get the message to students on the South and West sides that they can enroll in those selective programs. Finally, coming up in the calendar, Harold Washington Park is getting its own Park Advisory Council. They'll report to the Park District about problems and ideas for the park. You can be on the advisory board. Hyde Parker Tamika Hoffman-Zoller is getting the ball rolling.
It was obvious that people cared about the park. They wanted it to be, in a good state. And my first question was, is there a Park Advisory Council? As president of the Elm Park Advisory Council, I know that Park Advisory Councils can really make a difference in parks and in the community.
The next meeting of the Advisory Council is at 7 p.m., August 4th. Call 773-454-0499 for more. And that's it for this week. For the Hyde Park Herald, I'm Andrew Holtzman. Thanks for listening.